60. This is a weird title for a video, and it's not going to make sense unless, actually, it's not going to make sense unless you have a longer history with K-pop. Otherwise, what I'm going to talk about, you'll know nothing about, you won't be interested in. This will be a very boring video for you. I don't have a haul going on, so I don't have like extra stuff to talk about. I am rewatching Sodas. If anybody wants to join me, we'll be doing a review on that this weekend on Mason's channel. But yeah, this is one of those times when I'm speaking to a very niche market here. And so if this is not your gig, don't worry about it. I wanted to talk about Eat Your Kimchi. Okay, so I haven't kept up with Eat Your Kimchi in a really long time, not since Simon did that first super weird video after he and Martina came back from Japan, and I guess they had split up in Japan, but decided to come back to Canada to like do the actual divorce and stuff. And Simon made a video after they had been in Canada for a few months, and that video was him like just talking about his new life and everything else. And at that time, it was very obvious that like he and Martina had split up. Like it was one of those things where he kept making jokes about, now let's talk about the thing you guys want to talk about, my cast. Like he kept making jokes about the fact that we wanted to know, how come you and Martina haven't been in a video together in months? And so I am not somebody who has had anything to do with social media with Simon and Martina since that video. Like I pretty much wrote them off. First of all, they haven't done K-pop content in a really long time, so I had no reason to keep track of them, honestly. And there are a lot of other people who I was like really big fans of in the day that I don't keep track of anymore. I don't keep track of JRE's channel anymore, so I know that like him and his girlfriend are doing videos together now, but I haven't kept track of his video in forever. Tum Jin Jong Ki, I can't remember the last time I watched one of their videos. Like I really have left K-pop YouTube alone. Like I have very few even unboxing channels that I watch anymore. Part of it is because I have been a little bit more focused on boys love, but the other part of it is just like I have a really demanding job, and it did not slow down during the pandemic, so I've been working full stop this entire time. And I don't know, just I'm in a different place in my life. Like at the time that Eat Your Kimchi came into my life, it was a very interesting time for me personally. I started watching Eat Your Kimchi in 2012, and that's when I really got into K-pop, watching their channel. And I had recently separated from my husband, so my life was changing dramatically. I think we had been separated for maybe a couple of years, but it hadn't been that long. And, you know, I had a daughter that I was trying to find ways to connect with, and we were bonding over K-pop. So we had this kind of, I won't say ritual, but part of our bonding process at that time was we would wait to see what the new K-pop Music Monday was going to be, and we would watch it and we'd talk about it, and we would vote for different videos, and we liked to watch their food adventures, and we really enjoyed their channel. And their marriage was a big part of the channel. It was a big part of the channel early on just because they lived together and they were in every video together, and so of course their marriage was a topic of conversation. And then later on, when the channel quit being about all things Korea, their marriage became a super focus of the channel because it was about them adopting another animal and about them moving to Japan and why Korea sucks, and you know, a lot of more personal content. We got a lot of content about Martina's illness, Ellers Danlo, her Build a Ladder campaign. Simon was really into gaming, I guess. I really didn't know what the fuck Simon was doing, to be honest with you. And then, of course, things split up. But I realize now that my enjoyment of Eat Your Kimchi was and always will be based on K-pop. Like from the very beginning, I didn't give a damn about adventures they had, places around Korea. Like it was cool to see, but you know, it wasn't my style of travel vlog. I really wasn't super interested in a lot of the like, look at these quirky home products. I did love the food videos because I love food, and anytime they would show food, I'd be like, ooh, if that came to the US, I would try it. Speaking of which, Stephanie and I went out for Korean food. Tonight, actually, we went out for Korean street food. We had Korean fried chicken, and I had a potato hot dog. It was really, really good. And Stephanie had Thai tea boba, and it had little pickled radishes and stuff. It was a good time. But yeah, I really liked their channel because I liked Korea at the time. I was watching K-dramas, I was reading fan fiction, I was buying K-pop, I was buying ramen. Like, I really was digging the scene. And I look back on it now, and in a lot of ways, I'm glad that I got to experience Simon and Martina at their height. I'm glad I got to experience K-pop Music Mondays, but also looking back on it, it was a very problematic deal. It was problematic in that definitely it was experiencing Korea through the lens of foreigners, which is not the greatest way to experience a country. Two, I think that in a lot of ways, Simon and Korea felt very self-important. Simon and Martina felt very self-important. Like I said, the channel kind of transitioned from our experiences in Korea to our marriage and who we are as people. And, I mean, not for nothing, people definitely, you do build an audience around the cult of personality, but it became kind of a chore to have to listen to their personal stuff. When really, I just want more videos about food and more videos about music and that kind of thing. And I think it became even more glaring how disconnected I was from Simon and Martina when they moved to Japan, because none of their Japanese content connected with me. And I don't think I'm the only person. And it wasn't just because they weren't talking about J-pop. It didn't connect with me because it felt like it was all snark, and it was all petty, and it was all just not good. Also, like, there were little things that had happened too, like, in addition to just hating on Korea and being like, Korea is the worst place because our friend got hit by a drunk driver, and Korea is the worst place because they're super biased there, and Korea is the worst place because it's not as good as Japan. Like, these were all things that Simon and Martina were constantly talking about. Like, every time they would see something cool in Japan, they'd be like, that's way better than Korea. And it's like, girl, we get it. You broke up with your ex, move on. But even like the two girls that worked in their office, the white girl with the glasses, and then it was Lee and, oh fuck, what's her name? They have their own YouTube channel that I am subscribed to, but I haven't watched in a really long time. I think they live in Germany now. Anyway, when they closed the Eat Your Kimchi studio, Simon and Martina posted on their social media, don't ask us any questions about our former employees. Does that shit not sound crazy weird? Like, these are people who were in your videos. Lee and Susie, that's their names. Lee and Susie were in your videos a lot. Not kind of, a lot. And you were like, don't ask us about them. And it felt really weird. And I'll give credit where credit is due. Lee and Susie have not talked about Simon and Martina since they left Korea and started their travel vlogs. And good on them, because they absolutely could have been like, let me expose what really happened. They're much more emotionally mature than I am, so they have really focused their channel and their art around them living their lives. Also, I mean, not for nothing, they're the cutest couple ever, even though I don't think that they have acknowledged that they're a couple, but they are the cutest couple ever. But yeah, like, that was really shady and shifty and weird. And then they like would bring in people to like be their friends, but then they started closing their world down again. And then it was just like tons of videos of them in their house in Japan. And I'm like, bro, I don't relate. So the reason I'm doing this video is because my good friend Mason sent me a video that Simon posted in September about his side of their divorce story. And when I tell you, I've never wanted to be more divorced from two people in my life than these two people right here. I wanted to be so divorced from me. What if I want the divorce? Instead of you guys wanting to divorce each other, what if I want to be divorced from you? Because, like, He spends the entire video defending himself against comments that Martina made on Instagram. Comments that honestly were very angry comments. And you know what? As a person who's been through a divorce, people in divorces make angry comments. But folks don't always make fucking 20-minute videos about the angry comments that their divorce partner made. And the things that Martina was saying, there was one comment that she made, and it was like a full long ass paragraph. But the one comment she made was like, Simon is a covert narcissist, and I didn't realize that I was being abused by a covert narcissist until way later, and things aren't as rosy as they appeared. Now, her diagnosing him as a covert narcissist, we can all believe we know what syndromes and disorders other people suffer, but if you're not a trained, licensed psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist, best to leave the diagnoses alone. But I could definitely see where like Martina ended up on narcissist TikTok and said, oh my gosh, this behavior is familiar. I bet that's what he is, right? But Simon, you coming on a screen and saying, I talked to my therapist and my therapist doesn't agree with what Martina said. As someone who's been through a divorce and been to a therapist with their romantic partner during a divorce, let me tell you something. That therapist might have the best of intentions, but they can only work with what you feed them. And when you're in therapy and you're talking to a therapist, that session is all about you. So unless you're letting her know that people are leaving you because outside of your sessions, you are also focused on you, how would your therapist know that narcissism is a problem you deal with? Because in therapy, they ask you about you. They were, what are you feeling? You know, anything you want to talk to me about? Anything you want to work through? They let you steer the conversation. And so with that being said, if you are telling her, so my ex-wife is saying this about me, and your therapist says, well, is that something you want to talk about? Is that something you're struggling with? And you say, I don't think I have a problem with it. I'm just really frustrated with the emotions it's making me feel because I feel targeted and harassed. Then the conversation is going to go that way. And then you're going to leave that therapy session and you're going to tell other people, my therapist didn't think narcissism was a problem. They think that Martina's continued harassment of me is a problem. You get to spin it. You get to spin it. So while narcissistic diagnoses is wrong on Martina's part to say he is a whatever, because again, licensing, you don't have it, Martina. At the same time, you feeling the need to recover your, I guess, image in other people's eyes because maybe they agree with what Martina said or they found some type of validity in her words, doesn't make you look any better. It's not like she accused you of hurting her physically. She said you were a covert narcissist and she said she suffered from narcissistic abuse. Instead of addressing, I'm not a narcissist, what would have made more sense is to say, I can't recall any instances where I feel like I abused Martina. And by her throwing out these words, I feel incapable of defending myself because I don't have specific scenarios with which I can address the abuse she's saying that she suffered. That's how you do that. And I'm not a PR person, but I have common sense. And going and saying, well, I asked my doctor, and my doctor said I'm not a narcissist. That's the perception that you give to your therapist. That's not necessarily the perception that she has of you and the relationship you two shared. So instead of addressing her opinion of you, address, what did I do to make you feel this way? So it's just like, that was shitty. Then he had to talk about the cat. So, you know, Simon and Martina, they had two relatively famous pets. They had Spudgy, which was their Korean rescue dog. I mean, like, that's not the breed of the dog, obviously, but the dog was a rescue dog they bought in Korea. And Spudgy's story was a really heartwarming story. Well, it was a sad story, but a heartwarming story. Spudgy had been involved in a car accident, and the family that he was with originally, they had passed in the car accident, and Spudgy was sent to a dog shelter, and he had some issues with his hips and some other things because of the car accident. But Simon and Martina adopted him shortly after they moved to Korea, and he was their dog, and he was their dog until he passed, and they were still together like all through the remainder of Spudgy's life. And then later on, they adopted a cat that he called Memers. And those animals had been put on merchandising. They were a big part of the brand, everything like that. Now, keep in mind, their dog's name was Spudgy. Simon and Martina break up. They move back to Canada to finalize their divorce, get their attorneys involved, whatever else. Simon, very, very soon after moving to Canada, adopts a dog and names that dog, wait for it, Fudgy. Now remember, a big part of their brand was a dog named Spudgy. He adopts a dog named Fudgy. A little awkward, but could be understood. But Memers is still alive, and Memers is their shared cat. And so because they're back in Canada and they're living, I think, 3 hours away from each other, they decide to share cat custody, and the cat's spending 1 month with Simon, 1 month with Martina, 1 month with Simon, 1 month with Martina. Spudgy, since he was a small baby, has had issues with having like urinary tract infections. Like he gets these like crystalline deposits in his urinary tract, which can be brought on by stress. This cat, being a cat, not a person, you can't talk to your cat and say, mommy and daddy are getting a divorce and you're going to spend time with your daddy and then you're going to spend time with your mommy. It's a cat, right? So they're sharing custody of this cat. The cat starts to get crystals again, possibly brought on by stress. Now, Martina blames the fact that the cat is moving houses, which is stressful because cats like to be in familiar environments, and also the fact that not only does Simon have a new dog, conveniently named after their former dog that they shared together as a couple, but also Simon is fostering dogs. So he adopted one dog, Fudgy, then adopted a second dog, and has been fostering various other dogs. So she's like, hey, the environment you have over there is stressful for our cat. The situation of sharing houses is stressful for our cat. You already have 2 dogs, plus you're fostering more dogs. Let me keep Memers, because I don't have any other pets here. He'll just be the main pet, the lone pet, right? So Simon, they end up having to get their lawyers involved. But eventually Simon decides, yes, you can have Memers. Even though I checked with my vet and he said I didn't do anything wrong, you can have Memers. But here's where Simon's story falls apart. Because his analogy was, why should I give up Memers just because I have new dogs? It'd be like saying if I got remarried and me and Martina had a baby, that if I had a new wife and had other children, that I'd have to give up custody of my first child. Thing is, though, like I said before, Memers is not a kid. You can't explain these situations to Memers. He can't grow up and mature and eventually understand. He's a cat. He's got cat brain. Not only that, but Simon had plans to move to Hawaii. According to him himself, this is not hearsay, he left to go to Hawaii in June of 2020, 2021, I don't know. He left to go to Hawaii. He left to go to Hawaii with the plan of moving to Hawaii. How are you going to share custody of Memers if you move to Hawaii, Simon? Do you expect to fly Memers back and forth from the Big Island to Canada once a month? That wasn't reasonable. It wasn't reasonable. And Memers had already made the trip from Korea to Japan and then to Canada again. So Memers has been traveling a lot. So I don't think it's unreasonable for Martina to say, let Memers stay in Canada. Now, Simon also wanted to throw this dig in. I didn't find out till last month that Martina was moving to Japan. Okay, Martina's moving to Japan, and Memers is going to get left with Martina's mother. And I'm sure there's a lot of people saying, oh my gosh, why would Martina fight for custody of her cat if she's just going to move to Japan? But think about this. The cat was used to her mother. It was an environment the cat's been in for a while. Simon moved from an apartment in Toronto to an apartment in London, Ontario. He was planning on moving to Hawaii. Martina's going back to Japan. Part of the stress that Mimir is feeling is related to moving. So why would she want to move the cat again if the cat is used to her mother's house, and the mother's house is a quiet house because Martina's father passed away? There's not a bunch of kids in the house. It's an environment that the cat would be the only animal and it'd be comfortable. What's the problem with that? And then he wanted to argue semantics about the fact that like the cat is 8 years old, but Martina called the cat elderly and said the cat was 10 years old. I'm sorry, my guy, but when it comes to pets, people do round up. They do. I'm sorry. If I have an 8-year-old cat, I'm probably going to call it a 10-year-old cat because that cat is almost 10 years old. And an almost 10-year-old cat is an older cat. It's not a kitty anymore. It's an older cat. So, again, semantics, whatever. Get the fuck over that. But the last thing that kind of was, it pisses me off because I feel sometimes this is the go-to get out of jail card that people use. He wanted to talk about Hawaii. He had plans to move to Hawaii. And I want to say he had planned to move to Hawaii in June, maybe. He took like a COVID test before he got the tickets, COVID test at the airport, COVID test when he got to Hawaii, and, made all of his plans to go there, right? And he said that he didn't tell anybody he was going to Hawaii because he went to Hawaii for his mental health, even though he had plans to relocate to Hawaii until, I guess, the area that he was planning on moving to had some flooding issues or something like that. And so he changed his mind and decided to come back home. Well, he was mad that Martina told people that he moved to Hawaii because he hadn't planned to tell anybody that that was what was going on. The instance where Martina mentioned him moving to Hawaii is because she was saying how Simon was getting ready to move to Hawaii while she was dealing with Mimers and Mimers having the urinary crystals. So she's like, he was on his way to go to somewhere else completely while I'm dealing with our sick cat. That's when it came up. And I think it was important for her to mention because she's like, why are we fighting about custody when you're getting ready to move? So that's a valid thing to insert to the conversation. But Simon twisted as this: Martina had no right to invade my privacy. I went to Hawaii to protect my mental health. Mental health is really important to me. Therefore, I don't feel the need to disclose it. Now, I realize I am an older person and I'm still learning every day to view mental health in a different way than what it was viewed at when I was younger and I was learning things. But sometimes I feel like when people don't want to talk about things, or if the thing they're going to talk about can make them look like they're in a bad light, they default to mental health. And I'm sorry, we all go through things. We all go through things. And I just feel like you don't have to disclose what mental health issue you're dealing with, but I think saying that I feel like my privacy has been invaded because mental health. I don't think her telling people that you went to Hawaii or plan to move to Hawaii is endangering your mental health. I don't believe that. Now, he claims the reason why he was not wanting to have his move to Hawaii be discussed was because when they lived in Japan, people were able to triangulate where they lived because of landmarks around their home in Japan. Well, the other part of it is because you literally had the introduction to your Japanese videos be, today in Kichijoji, you were telling everybody where the fuck y'all were as well. You don't have to tell people where you are in Hawaii. It's very easy to be incognito in Hawaii because there's so many plants. Just take tons of videos of plants. Nobody's gonna know where you live. But also, like, at the same time, again, Hawaii, it's a state. It's not the biggest state in the country, but it is a state. And so there's plenty of places you could be in Hawaii. Plenty of places you could be. I firmly doubt that people are going to take the time to track you down there. I firmly doubt it. So you have the ability to get lost. But what made you mad, and you gave yourself away, what made you mad is that you had a narrative to tell about the Memers custody situation. And by her exposing that you had planned to leave anyway, it blew up your position in the Memer situation. And even though I'm not going to diagnose you as being a covert narcissist, your need to end the video by talking about Martina accusing you of being a narcissist is very narcissistic, because you wanted to make sure the last thing that people talked about was how healthy and not abusive and not narcissistic you are. Because that entire fucking 20 minutes plus the fucking 5-page essay you wrote in the description section of that video is all about you trying to recover your image. And then you did something that was even more pitiful. You have a podcast with some woman who, from what I've read, because I couldn't find the name of the podcast because people aren't trying to promote it because they're not trying to give Simon any kind of slack. Simon, when he came back to Canada, decided to spend a lot of time like meditating and finding his zen and going to therapy and all this other stuff, losing a bunch of weight. I'm not going to body shame him here, even though he does look drastically different than he's ever looked before. And I guess his meditation instructor, he developed a friendship with that person and decided to do a podcast with that person, and people are sending negative, hateful comments to that person. Simon starts the video by saying, I'm doing this video because my co-host is getting death threats. Ends the video with, I'm doing this video because my co-host is getting death threats. Yet and still, the body of the video is what Martina said about me isn't true. Not about, these are the things you're saying to my co-host. This is how I know my co-host. This is the kind of person she is. She doesn't know Martina. She has nothing to do with my situation with Martina. And I would appreciate it if you leave her out of a very personal situation between me and my ex-wife. That doesn't happen. Or if it does, it's like this. Mostly, that video was about him saying, I want you guys to start treating me nicely because I think that y'all are just saying all these things because Martina's mean. That's really his main position. And then if you scroll through the 5-page essay that he's got in his fucking description box, he acknowledges that he's been going through Instagram comments and YouTube comments deleting things that people are saying because he's not going to allow things to get toxic and people to say things that are hurtful or could hurt his mental health. Bro, let me just tell you now, just log out. Just log out. Leave Eat Your Kimchi on the internet as an archive of when things were nice. Your interviews with celebrities and all that stuff. Leave that there, but log the fuck out. Don't ever log into the Eat Your Kimchi channel again. And Martina, don't you log in anymore either. Like, for real, don't log in anymore. Because even though it feels like I've spent a lot of time defending Martina, I'm going to say this. Martina chose to make a lot of comments on their Instagram, the Eat Your Kimchi Instagram. Not on her personal King Kogi Instagram, but on the couple's Instagram. Martina, if you're done talking about things with Simon, then don't. But if you really want to talk about him and you don't want to talk about him and you want to talk about him in a forum where you feel like you'd be completely free, do it on your personal Instagram, because Martina has a personal Instagram. She also has a personal YouTube channel called King Kogi as well. If you have all these thoughts, these feelings, these emotions, things you want to work through, bouts of anger, you also log the fuck off and go to your personal Instagram and say all the shit you want to, instead of putting it on your shared forum. Because this is the reason why he's making his video, and this is the reason why you're responding on your Instagram, and y'all are going back and forth and doing this shit right here, when y'all could just really be beautiful about this and fucking go off right into your individual sunsets. But instead, you're taking the one place where you know you've kept your audience captive and you're deciding to be ugly there. And we don't want it. We don't want it. We seriously don't want it. I don't want it. I don't. If you look at the comment section, don't nobody want this. Most of the comments are, both of y'all need to log the fuck off and just leave this as an archive channel. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Simon's defense video is monetized. And I don't care what any YouTuber tells you, you don't have to automatically monetize every fucking video you post up. I have the option of turning off monetization. Every YouTuber who has monetization has the option of turning off monetization. It's not an automatic. It's not. And so he didn't have to monetize that video, but because he knew that he put a salacious title to this video, one that was going to get people interested and make people want to watch, he's like, oh, by the way, let's turn off this AdSense. Make a little money for daddy. Fuck you, man. Fuck you. Fuck you. Y'all need to call it a day. I don't know if your attorneys keep y'all from closing the Eat Your Kimchi channel. Like if there's something going on, like the revenue split hasn't been worked out. But seriously and truly, y'all need to go ahead and leave it alone. Call it a day. They still sell subscriptions to their channel. Because like on certain channels, you can be like a super subscriber or something. And for those of you who don't know, like Eat Your Kimchi, that channel has always been like a YouTube darling in terms of like they got to beta test a whole bunch of stuff for YouTube very early on because they were like, this foreign couple in a, or this white couple in a foreign country, how fun. And so of course YouTube's white people were like, yes, those will be our spokespeople. But yeah, they've always had access to like a lot of really fun YouTube stuff. And one of the things they have access to is premium subscriptions. And Martina has been continuously posting on the Eat Your Kimchi channel. She usually posts like once a month, sometimes twice a month, but she's been posting pretty regular. And I firmly believe that they do that in order to be able to justify charging people for the premium membership. And I think that their attorneys have said that as long as they post, they both get to share revenue. And so that is the reason why they continue to post. I don't think it has anything to do with like, oh, we owe our audience so much because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have been able to open a cafe and we wouldn't have been able to move to Japan and we wouldn't be able to do this, that, the other. No. I don't believe for a minute either of them actually give a fuck about their audience in terms of like, I can see where you would be confused. I can see where you'd be disappointed. I can see where you'd have questions that need answers. No, I seriously feel like the level that they care about their audience is the amount of affection and attention that either of them are getting from their audience. Simon had the need to defend himself on his channel because he needed to protect the public's perception of him because there's still more money to be made. And if they thought negatively of him, they're not going to support his future projects. And that's going to cause him to have to get a fucking real ass job. A job that he hasn't had in quite a while. Because if you remember from Eat Your Kimchi history, Simon was the first of the pair to quit their teaching job when they moved to Korea. So yeah, really and truly, Simon's trying to keep the gravy train going and he's trying to change your concept of things. He keeps mentioning his podcast, even though telling his side of the story really doesn't have shit all to do with his podcast because he wants you to find his podcast and he wants you to listen to it. That's it. That's it. And Martina is still on Eat Your Kimchi until she can build up King Kogi enough to not have to post on Eat Your Kimchi anymore. That's the fact. And it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks that this is what everything came down to. But I think probably the worst thing about this whole situation, and again, I haven't watched Eat Your Kimchi in a really long time, and I was never really invested in their marriage. I was more invested in like the K-pop, the Korean aspects, all that stuff. I think the worst part of all of this is that I was an adult when I found Eat Your Kimchi, but there were a lot of people who found Eat Your Kimchi when they were teenagers or young women. And Simon and Martina, in many, many ways, presented themselves as this wonderful, perfect example of harmonious marital harmony. that they were just soulmates and they were wonderful together and everything was great and they're so glad that they found each other because in a world where nobody else understood, they understood. And Simon was such a fucking martyr because his wife was disabled and he did all the things to make sure his wife was comfortable and that she would have a great, easy life. And he was lifting weights so he could carry her when she couldn't carry herself anymore. How romantic. And for a lot of young people, because for so long in their channel history, they presented themselves as this perfect married couple, a lot of people blame themselves for not having good marriages and for not having those kinds of relationships. And they would look at Simon and Martina and wonder, like, did I marry the wrong person? Why are we arguing and they're not? Like, we have these parasocial relationships with people that we meet online. And, we joke about, wow, if this person and that person broke up, then true love must not exist. But real talk, a lot of us who come from homes where there's bad relationships, we really do look for examples of healthy relationships on the internet. And for a lot of us who are looking for healthy relationships on the internet, we look at these couples that have been through perceived adversity and are still together, and we think, oh, wow, I want a relationship like that. But when those couples don't show or talk about what's hard, or when they talk about it, they gloss over it or they candy coat it, or they make it to where, yeah, we went through hard times, but this is what we learned and we're so much better for it. It's almost like the toxic positivity that you see associated with like MLMs or what you see associated with like Christian TikTok and that kind of thing. Just this overwhelmingly sickly, syrupy, sweet need to make everything perfect and everything wonderful and everything better than it really is. And honestly, life is hard. Not just marriage, not just families, life. Life is hard. I had a conversation with a couple of older ladies yesterday about, some things I've gone through in my life, losing my biological father, my stepfather, my grandmother, several aunts and uncles, having an uncle who killed himself, having a stillborn baby, going through a divorce, all this stuff. And those women were like, wow, I've been through things in my life, but you've been through so much. And I explained to them, like, yeah, I've been through a lot, but I've also been very happy. Very, very happy. And even though what I have been through seems like a lot if you've never experienced it, you're going through things that I've never experienced. And everyone is going through their own struggle. Everyone is going through their own thoughts of what I could have been, what I never got a chance to be, opportunities that were missed, relationships that were lost. We all have somebody that we don't talk to anymore that we wish we did still talk to. We have people that we still talk to that we wish we could get rid of. We have people that we don't talk to and we're damn glad we don't talk to them. We all go through something. We all have our own cross to bear. And I think if we could talk about it in a way that we didn't feel the need to put a happy spin on things, but we also didn't feel the need to sensationalize it, but just tell it like it really is, all of us could be in a much healthier life. All of us could feel a lot more joy and a lot more happiness. Yes, I went through a stillbirth and it sucks. And it changed a lot of the way I live my life. But at the same time, there are literally millions of women who go through stillbirths and miscarriages every single year. It is a part of life. More women go through miscarriages than you would ever believe. And so, what makes me more special than the woman next to me? Nothing. That's just a part of my story, just like it's a part of her story. And there are women who never have to feel that, and it's never going to be a part of their story. But it's one adverse situation that I went through and I made it out the other side of. And life goes on. And I had to learn how to work through those emotions. And I had to learn how to work through disappointment and dreams that were deferred. However, I'm here. Life's not great, but I'm here. And I think if we could start talking about things in a real way and not trying to be like, and I had a rainbow baby afterwards, or, and then I found my calling at work. Instead of trying to put like a super happy spin on these tragic things, just acknowledge that like tragedy happens. We get angry at people. We get sad about things. We get disappointed in folks. Our emotions change. The way we feel about our partners changes. People that we were so in love with in our 20s, we look at in our 30s and we think, who the fuck are you? Do I even know you? That happens. That legitimately happens, and it happens more frequently than you might think. So for those of you in your 20s or 30s that are going through that relationship bell curve, let me tell you something. People change, and you don't always grow together. However, we do what we can. We do what we can. We try to make it, and we need to be making it for us. We don't need to be making it for the gram. We don't need to be making it for other people's expectations. If you're going to try to make your marriage work, don't make it work because your parents expect you to make your marriage work. Don't make it work because your kids are relying on you to make your marriage work. Make your marriage work because that's what you want. Make your marriage work because this person is somebody you feel deserves to still have you in their life. Do it for you. And don't be afraid when people ask you how things are going to say, kind of struggling right now, but we're working through it. And just leave it at that. You ain't got to tell them exactly what's happening. It's none of their fucking business. But you can just say, every day is a struggle, but we're trying to make it through. And leave it at that. Tell what you're comfortable telling. Tell as much as you're comfortable expanding on. But be real. And that, I think, is probably the biggest thing about Simon's video that anybody watching would absolutely understand and relate to. Simon is not keeping it real. There's nothing real about, I just want to take some time to talk to you about the state of my relationship and some things that have been discussed on the internet. Like that whole kind of whispery, breathy voice shit he's got going on right now, like he can't catch good breath. Don't nobody want to hear that bullshit. Don't nobody want to hear that. That shit's creepy as fuck. Do you realize you sound like a fucking serial killer? Do you realize you sound like some fucking predator about to crawl out the trees and kidnap somebody? That's not a good look, my guy. So yeah, just be real. Don't put on because you feel like people expect that from you. Don't put on in order to make yourself feel better when you know that behind the scenes shit is shit. Just live your life. Because at the end of the day, you're going to die alone. I mean, that's a horrible thing to say. You're going to die alone. All these accolades and people's attention and what they think about you can't keep you from illness, can't keep you from death. So why put on this disguise for other people when you could just live your life? And maybe in the process of living your true and authentic life, you will find your true and authentic happiness. Try that out. See what happens. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about because I feel like watching that video confirmed for me that I will never watch another Eat Your Kimchi video again. Watching that video confirmed for me that me and Eat Your Kimchi are over. And I wish Martina the best. I really, really do. I hope Japan works for her. I hope she finds someone in Japan that makes her super happy, whoever that happens to be. Or she finds something in Japan that makes her super happy and makes her feel a new joy in life. I hope that whatever the fuck it is that Simon's trying to pursue right now, whether it's, a new state of existence, or if it's a relationship, or if he just wants to be the dog king of Ontario, I hope that shit works for him too. I hope that Memers lives a comfortable life until he's no longer able to be on this planet. I wish the best for everybody, but I also would really like for them to leave us the fuck alone. So anyway, that's a little discussion piece, and I know this is not what I normally talk about. I normally talk about K-pop, and I will eventually, but it just wore on my heart because there are a lot of things about second gen that we say, oh, second gen is over. The groups aren't as popular as they used to be. Everyone's gone to the military. So many groups have broken up and don't have their original members anymore. Second gen is dead. But what we don't talk about is how the environment surrounding second gen is also dead. Eat Your Kimchi's dead. I don't feel like people really fuck with JRE like they used to. I can't remember the last time he had KML on his channel. The React channel genre, for the most part, to me feels very dead. Fandom is different. Standom is different. So much of that shit is in the past. And honestly, maybe we need to start letting that shit stay in the past. I'm not gonna give up on second gen completely because as long as Shiny exists, I'm here. But maybe just the idea that we need to continue talking about how great things were back in the day. If you can look at Simon and Martina with a 2021 mindset and look back at their 2013, 2014, 2015 videos, maybe we need to start looking at second gen with a different mindset as well, because that wasn't all roses and good times either. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you watching because like I said, this is a very different kind of video, but I had a good time. I hope you did too. And I'll talk with you later. Bye.